there's a westernized idea of more complex equals better.
Yep.
And I can make this better. That's really just saying I can make this more complex.
Yep.
And then we've talked about how complexity sometimes can be in service to our own ego. And we've kind of pushed back at that whenever something comes up and we can make this more complex. And I think that's the goal. My thing has always been remove friction. If you look at everything through a long-term lens, and that's not saying everything, a long-term lens applies to everything. You can't just be the guy, like when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's, it's not the solution to everything.
No.
But test it against a long-term outlook. And if it fits, then figure out, okay, what's impeding me from doing this consistently over time? And you start removing those barriers and then just let it go.
Well, and we used the analogy before in a previous episode about, just like how to perceive of tackling the work. And I talked about, I try to break it up like 100 feet at a time, like you're on a hike up Mount Everest, right? Using that analogy, what I'm hearing from you is something like, instead of looking at your project, or not looking at your project, but taking on, you want to hike for the first time. You're going to hike Mount Everest the first time.
I'm going to go buy, I have to buy all this gear before
Why don't you start a little smaller? Build up to something like that. Why does your first project have to be some massive cinematic undertaking or some huge complex? I got to hire a couple of people. I got to do that. I got to do that. Just start doing some simple things. And part of what's really caused me to, light on fire for photography is I can have what feels like an outcome that is large in scope, if you will, like let's say a photography book or an exhibition. Not that I have any of that done, but I can have a body of work that feels large in scope, but the inputs to get it are just me going out and taking photos. Now, granted, I'm not shooting large format. I'm not doing portraits where I have to kind of be a producer and make sure this person's there, wander the streets and strike up a conversation, earn someone's trust, go into their home, take a photo. There's certainly projects like that take a lot of, that are complex and in that it's not just walking around the street.
Aren't worth doing.
100%.
Right.
But I'm saying to myself, like, well, you're interested in photography, instead of chewing that off right out of the gate, just like see how well you do with walking around and doing street photography or whatever. Did that for a while, decided I wanted to start a channel about it. And, that might turn into this and that might turn into that. And so what I like about this especially is we purposely tried to keep the complexity as low as possible. We used these standard definition flip cameras. We used our own equipment. We chose your studio space because it was just the vibe that, and the logistics and all that stuff, it checked all the boxes. I don't edit in Premiere Pro. You don't really either, but it has that app, that pod, what's it called? I always forget what's the name. Pod.
No free ads.
Yeah.
No, I really don't.
I'll put a link in the show notes because I literally just sent it to someone
use it
and I
all
can't
the time,
remember. But it autopod, I think. It
I think
like
it is
automatically edits our 3-camera podcast. So all these, and you could argue that's a complex thing, right?
Yeah.
But we can use it in a very simple way. So to kind of bring the broader point home, there's a little bit of, I'm talking in self-congratulatory ways here. Like, oh, look what you guys did. The point is, for you who are listening or watching, it is trying to connect the sort of like realization that we've had, like, oh, like we can do this. We don't have to just like have the idea over coffee or at like get all whipped up about something at dinner with our friends and then just let it fizzle out because it's maybe more complex than we're ready to commit to or whatever. We've looked at it with that snowball perspective and said, let's just shoot a pilot and see what it's like. Okay, I see. Oh yeah, I see. Let's make these adjustments and let's do another one.
Yeah.
And then another one. And all of a sudden it's just automatic.
Yeah, it's easy.
And to the point where when we took a break for the holidays and your family situation, like something's off, something's missing, something's been amputated, the phantom limb feeling. And that's certainly been the case. When you mentioned that, Sunday might be booked for you and we had to go on Thursday, I was a little, I had liked that last Sunday session we did
You're
to where I'm like, wow, we got like 4 hours. It was 2 podcasts, like there's something, like you're doing even more work.
Yeah.
But it's that much more rewarding.
Yeah.
So, for me, that's my big takeaway from this is once you shift
there's
that
a good
mindset
energy to that too, but yeah.
Once you can have that shifted mindset to chipping away at something, understanding that for most people, it's going to take a lot of time to build something. And not only, and I don't mean, again, build 100,000 subscribers, silver play button, or this many people are watching the podcast. I mean,
or a
like
body of work or a feature film.
To just have 100 episodes of a podcast. And even if you only have 50 subscribers, that you have this body of work that you have established, that you are capable of being disciplined and consistent and, all of that.
Yeah.
Like it's doable.
It had been a golden afternoon, and I remember having the familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the sunrise.